Here I am.
There you go.
I'm
How are you doing today?
doing pretty good. Doing pretty good today.
Nice. It's so amazing to see you. So
You
happy.
too. You look gorgeous.
Thank you. So is you. So let's see. To start off this interview, how about we start saying, what's your name?
Okay. My name is Samantha Winkler.
Sweet. How old are you, Samantha?
I am 34.
Nice. How many kids do you have?
So I have one and then one in the oven.
That's a very cute way to say that. Love it. So, how is Texas today? How is the weather?
Beautiful. It's hot. I was telling my fiance, like, come bring me a fan while I do this interview because I'm about to just be drenched here probably in the next few minutes. So.
I know. The weather here in Orlando is the same. It's so hot. It's sometimes suffocating.
Right?
So today we're starting this interview because we want to create awareness. We want to show people what actually is, what constitutes the life of a mother who actually is going through some depression during her pregnancy, as is your case. And it is for people to understand that there's nothing wrong with you and that this is not something that you should be labeled as that you're being problematic or you're being a danger to your children or to yourself, or that you should be put any label whatsoever. It's a condition that we cannot control. It's something normal that happens, and people need to understand what is behind all of this, what actually does go on, and for them to understand that it's something that if worked with, and if we actually look for help, then we'll get through it.
Right.
Just one more. Let's get going. So one of the questions that I had, our first question for today was, when was the first time that you ever felt depression?
So the first time that I ever in my life felt depression was as a teenager, when I was taken advantage of by a boyfriend and his friends, drugs, all those things. That was the first time after that I felt like this real sense of shame, didn't really know what to do with it, and experienced trauma from it, that I guess made me get real depressed, and I felt like I was alone.
Okay. And did you feel the same type of depression when you had your first boy, your first pregnancy?
So it was kind of similar, except for it was more dramatic, I would say, more invasive. Something that was almost felt like it was out of my control. Felt like it was different from who I am, what I normally think like, how I normally feel. That I was almost out of control, like you would describe, PMS or something, except for times 1,000, basically. That's how I like to describe it. You just feel totally out of control.
Gotcha. And were you diagnosed then? Like, did you go when you saw your gynecologist? Did he diagnose you with like the baby blues or some type of depression while you were pregnant?
So no, while I was pregnant, I cried constantly almost. I was in therapy, but nobody really told me that it was normal. Nobody really mentioned to me that, a lot of moms feel depressed when they're pregnant or feel overwhelmed or, tend to be very teary-eyed or need a little extra help. I felt ostracized most of that pregnancy, because I couldn't control my emotions. I couldn't control how sad I was. And then right around, I guess, my 7th to 8th month of pregnancy, I had my first suicidal thought, which really freaked me out, because I didn't know where it was coming from or why I was feeling that way. And I didn't ask for help from anybody. I didn't tell anybody except for my partner, and he kind of was already pretty checked out emotionally, which I think happens with a lot of partners with their pregnant significant others. They don't really know necessarily how to handle extreme, emotional, mental disorders or mental abnormalities, and so they're not sure how to support us during that time. And so that's why it's been so wonderful to have you this time, and to actually be asking for help, and not be ashamed like I was last time. It makes me not have to go through it alone and not feel like there's something abnormal about it.
I'm sorry to interrupt you on that, but one question that I didn't put on our list, and I'm sorry I have to ask it so that way we understand the difference between then and now. Yeah, it's like, what was the year when your son was born? Like, when was
exactly 10 years ago? So I had him in 2010, and then
so we understand back in 2010 there wasn't really any understanding for those who are viewing. There was no understanding of postpartum depression. It wasn't out of the shadows like it is now, which that was back in 2017, if I'm not incorrect, that there was a bill passed. But there was no knowledge. The doctors didn't know what postpartum depression were. Still, some don't till this day. But we didn't have the how would I say it? The medical facilities that actually provide aid. We didn't have people who actually understood in depth about this situation. It wasn't even an investigation purposes. Like right now, they're trying to find like a drug or some form of medicine to help moms with the depression or to cope with it. But back then, there was no aid, there was no help, and it was kind of stressing and more frustrating, I imagine, for mothers at that time to deal with this situation. So how old is your son right now?
So he was born in 2012 or 2010, sorry, and so he's 10 now.
Nice, so gorgeous. Is he looking forward to meeting his new sister?
Yes, he is super excited to meet his sister, and I'm excited.
I'm so happy I met him. He's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. He's an angel.
Oh, how did you feel during the pregnancy and immediately after we already heard how you felt during the pregnancy. How did you feel after you gave birth to your son?
So a lot of it was, I was just overwhelmed, right? It was my first child. I didn't think I'd be a good mother. I kept having these thoughts of, I'm a terrible mother. I'll be a terrible mother. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm afraid. I'm scared. But I put on this face like I was okay because I thought that was what was expected. And I didn't really talk to a lot of people about what was going through my head because I didn't want to be, ostracized. So I shared with the therapist, I shared with my significant other, but I didn't really have a group of women to help support me through that process. But afterwards, it got really, really bad. Afterwards, I guess the first couple of weeks, you're healing up and you have usually some support there. But as soon as my significant other went back to work and I was alone with the baby at home, that was when things got really dark for me. And I started having kind of like hallucinations, if you will, or intrusive thoughts that were very scary of, wanting to harm my child. And, you think that that's the last thing that is ever going to come across your mind when you're a new mother. And I felt this lack of bonding, all the symptoms that they talk about with postpartum depression that I thought it was me, that it was my fault, that I was a bad person because I was feeling those things. And all I could do was just talk about it and tell my significant other, I think this and I think that, and I'm feeling this and I'm feeling that, so that I didn't act on those things. Like one was that I thought he was going to just fall off the second story, or like I would see him, on the cutting board when I'm chopping like carrots. It was so scary. Like that's the best way to describe it. It was terrifying. It was like I was in a nightmare. And nobody wants that to be their experience of bringing a baby home and taking care of their firstborn. And we don't see a lot of images or any type of media or, television and movies about having, all we see is, oh, these mothers are locked up, you know, because they didn't get help, they didn't ask for help, they didn't know that it was a normal thing for them to experience, and so they end up going to jail or they end up committing suicide, which you know, we know about your daughter, and like, thank God for your foundation, because I mean, you've helped me just during this pregnancy, and I really hope that I can help mothers that experience this in the future.
And that's what people don't understand, which I really want them to see. It's that those hallucinating thoughts are things that come to mind, and there's nothing you can do to control it. It's the hormonal imbalance is such it gets to a point where if you don't know what you're dealing with, you don't know what's going on, how are you to treat it? How are you to explain it to the person who's actually with you, who's like, you are talking crazy right now? Do I tell him what I'm actually seeing, because he's gonna think that I'm just about to fly off a kite?
Right.
So it's troubling to be in a situation where you can't talk to anybody about what you're feeling or what's happening to you. And I imagine that, well, when I went through it, it was really frustrating for me, because I knew that wasn't me. I didn't tend to be that way. And
Right.
for you, it must have been something really horrifying, because I didn't get to that phase of suffering the psychosis mode. But now that I totally understand what it is, it's shocking sometimes to know that moms go through that, and they go through it alone. How do they battle it? I mean, I take my hat off just to the fact that you actually were able to overcome it. So you were stronger than what you think, because it was for you to do something out of the normal at that time. And thank heavens you were able to overcome it, sadly by yourself. But to know that many women who actually weren't able to do so and have been incarcerated for life, or you know, children who sadly lives were taken because, well, nobody knew what was going on with that mother. Nobody understood about this chemical imbalance. Nobody understood the grave situation that it turns to. So it's good to actually hear it from someone, from the mouth of the source, you know, someone who actually was there, been there, went through it, and this is how it feels.
And I told you, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but I eventually went catatonic, where I literally couldn't take care of myself or the baby at all. Didn't trust myself to do that, and had to be hospitalized for a week to get.
And that was my next question. How are you able to overcome it? But it's like, it just didn't go away. So people don't think that.
Right. Yeah, so that, you know, I eventually became catatonic. It was around, I guess, month 2-ish, 2.5, when he was like 2.5 months old, and was just like completely just disconnected, had stopped eating, stopped taking care of myself, stopped showering, you know, those types of things that, you know, you see with just classic depression. And like I said, was hospitalized, was put on a very strong antidepressant, had to stop breastfeeding at that point.
How long did they have you hospitalized?
So they kept me for a week. And then after that, I my significant other split up with me, and I had to move back in with family, got my own apartment, and had to take care of this baby by myself while dealing with still some depressive symptoms. But I finally got to a point where I knew that this, like I say, dark passenger, or, you know, this, even with medication, right? Even with, you know, having some support. I didn't really have any therapy after that. I just took the medication, and that was kind of it. I kind of had to just tell myself that it's okay. I'm going to think this way. I'm going to feel this way. And I did as much research as I could. And what the research showed me was that eventually that my hormones would normalize, and that I would bond with my child, you know, really strongly. But that for that first year, give or take, it was going to be really hard for me, and I just had to kind of endure and fight through it. And so that's what I did. I went to school. I, you know, took my son to daycare, and I did the very best job that I could to provide for him and take care of him. And if it got too much, I would ask for help. I would ask for my neighbor, can you take my son for, an hour or two so I could just breathe, and take care of myself. I asked for a lot more help at that point, and that's how I got through it. I didn't try and be superwoman. I knew that I needed help from people, from family, from neighbors to help take care of me and my son, because as a single parent going through postpartum depression, it's I don't know, maybe it's like a little bit harder, I'm not sure, but I feel like it probably is. So hopefully this time around, because I have my significant other here who wants to be a part of the life, wants to support me and this child, that maybe it'll be better. But of course, my biggest fear is that I'm not going to bond with her again, but I know that I'll get through it no matter what. And, I have to be there for her as a mother, and be there for myself. Like that self-care, you have to pay attention to that. That is literally the most important part, I think, of getting through postpartum depression or any type of depression, is doing the opposite of what you're thinking. Sometimes you just want to lay in bed all day. You want to, whatever, like crazy thoughts of, suicide or whatever. You can't follow through with any of those thoughts that are self-harm or harming others. You have to really be aware that those are not your thoughts, and you can separate that from yourself. That's just it's just a behavior. Like I like to say, like it's a thought. It's a just skewed way of thinking, but it's not you. And so a lot of times I would just do the opposite of what I was thinking, and really take care of myself as much as I was taking care of my baby.
See, and this is something that you said, something that I always tell the moms on our Facebook page, and it's, you have to feel that what you have is like the battle of minds. I like the way you put it, like there's this host in your body. And it feels that way because they keep telling you these stupid ideas or this stuff that you're like, but that I would never think that way. Why is that coming to my brain? Like, why am I thinking that? And if you keep your mind busy, like if you're always doing something to counteract that, it actually helps. And I always tell moms, you should find a hobby, you should get out of the house, you should walk your child, or just take down the stroller to the park or something, or to the beach. But it's to keep your mind busy and to keep the host away. Like that thought that's annoying and is wrong, then to be able to counteract it and keep it away, the best thought is stay out of your house.
Right. And you also feel like it's never going to end. That's the part too that I remember, is like, it's never going to end. I'm never going to bond. I'm never going to feel better. Like, it's just going to always be like this. I'm going to hate being a mother, and it's going to suck forever. And that was not the case at all. I came over that mountain, and I started falling in love with my son, and just realizing how precious he was and how grateful I was that I managed to fight through this battle. And I started thinking, man, I'm so strong. If I can fight myself, then the world has nothing on me. Like, at the end of the day, nothing is too much for me to bear. If I can fight my own demons, my own inner battle, then I can get through it. And my son, God bless him, he is just an angel. He's like a straight A student. He wants to be a doctor. I'm just like, did I deserve this? Like, how did this angel perfect baby come out of a mother that was so screwed up? Like, in my mind, that's how I saw myself. Now I realize I was just coping. That's it.
Do you feel that depression fully went away?
So I feel like it lingered. I'm not, a little bit, maybe because of circumstance of being a single parent, and trying to get a career together, and being, very young. I was 22. But I think that it dissipated. Absolutely. I think that it started to dissipate when he was about a year old. It started to get a lot better. I ended up managing to get off of medication completely, and working full time again, feeling really confident in my ability to take care of my child, and just in my own life. It was really wonderful to actually get to a point where I didn't have to, be on medication. I didn't have to, deal with all of those self-harm thoughts or harming my child thoughts. And I realized I was a wonderful mother. I was an amazing mother. I had more love for him and more concern and care for him than I had maybe originally when we first met, when he was first born. But through all of it, I continued to care for him so much. I continued to take care of him like he was just, perfect. Even though some days I was like, oh, I just can't handle this. I don't want to do it. But there were moments where it was just perfect. And I treasure those moments and I remember those moments, and I don't beat myself up for the ones that were scary and the ones that were humiliating in my own, I would be embarrassed about, but today, I'm not scared anymore. I'm not embarrassed. I just, I know that I can talk to anybody. I have a phone list of women that I can call when I'm feeling suicidal, angry, emotional, crazy, and that I can say whatever it is that's on my heart, whatever it is that's on my mind, to make it have less power over me at the end of the day, because all it is a thought. If I don't act on it, then I've won the battle. And there are days where I'm great. There's weeks where I'm great. And then there's sometimes where it's like I can't get through the day at all. And I have a fight with my significant other or my job situation or with this coronavirus crap.
Now, this is where this question comes. Like, when did you feel that the depression started this time around? Or do you feel that is what it is this time?
Oh, absolutely. This time I've been more critical of my body. I've noticed. I don't know why, but I've just been more hypercritical of my body. Once I started getting really pregnant, started feeling less sexy, less desirable. That's kind of when the depression, I felt like, was starting to hit a little bit harder. And I would have these anger outbursts that kind of started right around month 3. Like once I got past 12 weeks, I started getting kind of angry more often, irritable. And
so you say the first trimester?
Yeah, the first trimester. Right after the first trimester, when my morning sickness stuff maybe started to clear up, that was when I started feeling more anxiety. And then the depression really hit hard, where I recognized, oh shit, this is, I'm sorry.
Obviously one of those words will come past.
This is serious. About a month and a half ago, which was like right around the end of my second trimester, I had my first suicidal thought again. And that was when I was like, oh no, I need to ask for help. I need to get this out there and see what help is available for me, because I'm not going to be able to do this alone. I don't want to have to go through this alone or put all the pressure on my significant other again, because I think that may be a part of the reason why we split up, was because I was so dependent on him, taking care of my mental health, when in reality we are responsible. It's not our fault. Like at the end of the day that we're experiencing mental health issues, but it is our responsibility to take care of our recovery, to ask for help, to take the thoughts and the feelings out of the shadows and bring them into the light, so that they can.
That's where my next question comes actually into play. Does it feel the same for you, with the same intensity, or is it a little bit softer than it was the first time?
I would say that it's softer this time, only because I immediately started looking for help when I felt overwhelmed and started feeling suicidal. I immediately started talking to other moms that have experienced this, that are trying to get through it. And so the pressure is less because I feel less alone. And that to me is that's the solution to this, is to really take it out of the shadows, make it the new normal. Because
next question, what would you recommend a mom who is suffering from postpartum depression, and what would you tell her to do to take control of her life again?
So number one, tell yourself that this is a normal thing, that every person who has had depression or has experienced any type of trauma in their life, which most of us have, will have some form of baby blues or depression. It's okay. That's the first part, is to tell yourself it's okay that I'm feeling these feelings. I accept myself even though I'm feeling this stuff, and it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to reach out to my family, to whoever is going to listen and help me, because you're surviving something that is really like out of your control, but something that, like you said, you can't control it. And to have to fight that by yourself is, it's just, you don't have to. Like, there's help available. There's people out there who understand exactly what you're going through, have had the same feelings, the same reactions, and gotten through it. So I would say to any mother out there who's feeling depressed while pregnant, or feeling those postpartum depression, feelings, going into psychosis, all over the gamut, even if it's just baby blues, right? Like, know that you are not alone, that it's okay if you're not bonding with your child, if you hate motherhood, if you're trying to figure it all out and you're totally scared. Know that there are people like me that all we want to do is listen to you and help you get through it. All we want to do is make you feel like you're not alone. That I would suggest you get a therapist, reach out to the medical community. If you're against medication, I totally understand. Try it. If not, whatever works for you. Every individual person is going to be unique, and every situation is going to be different. But just know that you are never alone, and it's never too crazy a thought or too hard of a situation that you can't get through without a little bit of help. And I am so excited to be a part of this, to be bringing this to the light, because I've always thought that I was alone. And now with you, Maria, and help of your foundation, and the other women I've been reaching out to, I'm writing things that are going on with me this time. I'm not ashamed. I'm proud of myself.
A journal, I see.
I'm proud of myself because I want to know that, like, I'm going to help somebody else. And I also want to know that my daughter can know her mother was strong enough to get through all of the mental health problems that I have had, in my whole life and in my pregnancies. But, it is, I guess, to conclude, it's a beautiful thing to see a mother go through this and recover from it and get on the other side of it and talk about it, because there's nothing to be ashamed of, nothing. And like I said, I would like this to be the new normal. I would like this conversation to happen more often in the media, in the news, in books, and so that we don't have this idea in our head that we have to be perfect mothers, or that we have to be excited about it, or just in love with our children when they're first born. It's okay for that not to happen.
I remember at the first time I made a video, I told mothers, pregnancy, I know that we have in our minds that everybody has this Cinderella view of it. Oh, it's going to be birds tweeting and everything. No, it is not. Nobody tells you about the elephant in the room.
It's hard. It is hard. It is hard.
But it's having the support system. It's having the ability to speak about it. If you do not have a support system, look and search for others to help you.
And like I said, do the opposite of what you're thinking, because when you're depressed, you don't want to ask for help. Yeah. You don't want to call anybody. You don't want to say anything. You just want to lay in bed and just sulk, in your depression. And that's the opposite of what you have to do. You have to get out there. You have to call people. You have to fight at the end of the day, that inner warrior, like you say, Maria.
Yeah. So. Now, I have another question that I know some mothers out there have. During the COVID-19, it's kind of frustrating to be locked up all the time. Like, weren't able to go anywhere, weren't able to, because of the fear that you might get this virus. Mm-hmm. So how has all this affected you, and how have you been able to cope with it?
I will say that, just for mothers, from what I understand, that haven't had any type of mental health issues throughout their pregnancy or throughout their life, they're starting to have them. But for me personally, it's been awful. It was very, very, very hard. I found myself just like not putting on makeup, not washing my hair, you know, that self-care stuff went out the window. And just kind of vegging on the couch and not doing anything for myself, and feeling very much like afraid, you know, all day, every day, anxiety. Okay, am I gonna get sick? Is the baby getting sick? We research about the virus and, you know, like driving myself crazy, you know, trying to make sure that I don't get sick. And then at the same time that I'm not in contact with somebody that's sick. So it's just like, and you don't know, it's like this invisible thing. You don't know. Yeah. But I realized also that I can't live my life in fear. I can't live afraid that I'm going to be sick and die, because at the end of the day, like, we're all going to die. Something could happen to all of us at any point. And so I started walking, you know, every day, doing yoga, you know, trying to take care of myself, do things that make me happy, read books more than watch TV, you know, reach out to people on Facebook, old friends, connect with people, use the time to, you know, plan my future and things I want to do versus being so scared and inside. But yeah, I would say it was very, very hard. It continues to be a challenge, I think, for all of us mothers who are pregnant right now, especially with bringing her home. Like, you know, who's going to come and visit? Do I let them hold her? Do they wear a mask? Do they have gloves? You know, and then like, I don't want to be the person that's like, leave my baby alone, don't touch her, you know, like, so it's just like,
it's not about freaking out, but we need to freak out.
I know, right? It's a lot of stress, I will say, extra on top of, you know, it all. And so I believe that all the mothers that are pregnant right now or who are having young children at home, God bless you, and for being strong and for being brave during this time for your children and for yourself, because this is not something that I think any of us anticipated in being mothers, that we'd have to get through a pandemic with our children. So I just look to the future and think, you know, this is a historical moment, right? Like, this is going to be written in textbooks, and, you know, so just.
You can actually, most likely, I bet they'll have a meme that says, I survived COVID-19.
I know, right? Babe.
Yeah. So it's, I'm glad that you're looking forward to the birth of this baby. And do you already know if you're gonna do an in-home birth, or you're actually gonna go to the hospital and do the same? I know you're close. Like that day is close.
I could not have a home birth. I love all those women that do that, and I wish I was like that brave, but I'm just not. Because I tried to do it with my son and it didn't work out. I was in labor for like 5 days.
Oh wow.
So yeah, and so
the epidural, need the epidural.
Right? So I'm actually this time around doing a scheduled C-section and tubal ligation, so that I don't have to worry about you know, birth control in the future. I'm 34. Nice. So I'm pretty much done with the whole baby making thing. But yeah, I'm super excited to meet her, and
exciting to know you're a couple, boy and girl. Woohoo!
It's a girl. Yeah.
Something awesome to look forward to.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for you. And please let us know when that day comes. Oh my gosh, I look so forward to it.
Yes, I can't wait to see her face. So,
I saw the sonogram on your Facebook page, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's so big.
I know, she's huge. She's like 7 pounds already in there. Here, I'll show you my belly so you can where I'm at with that whole thing.
Oh,
you can
so
see it.
beautiful.
So, there we are. Yep.
She is looking gorgeous.
Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry I didn't get to do a video or take pictures of the items that we delivered to you. I know some people were looking forward to it, but I was so tired from the trip. I actually told my daughter, oh my, I forgot. I was like, my mind was in some bed somewhere.
Well, if you need me to take pictures of any of it, I will. I'm just so grateful to have those little gifts, you know, from your foundation. It makes me more excited.
Just by you saying it, I think people will understand, you know, it wasn't a lie. Actually, a human being received those. We didn't just sell them forward or something.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm so proud of you. I can't express it enough. I'm so proud, and we will continue to be with you until the end. Until you tell me I don't need you anymore, Maria. You're being
Go away. I don't know if that will happen. I hope to help other mothers with you in the future, honestly. That's my
sweet.
my
I
goal.
look forward to that. So
All
thank
right.
you so much for this interview. It was such a pleasure talking to you again, and to be able to help other mommies as well to understand better what this is all about, especially to fathers, because that's one of the things that I posted before we started this interview, because dads have the tendency of saying, oh, there's nothing wrong with her. She's fine. I'm like, okay, well, there isn't anything wrong with her. She has a
Right.
condition. That's nothing wrong.
Right.
So it's like, I want them to understand, look, you know, mom's okay, but she just needs a little bit of help. You know, a little
And I think they
nurturing.
think, is this how she's always gonna be? Or like,
Oh my God.
has she changed into this
The
other
Loch
person
Ness
that's never gonna
Monster.
go back?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. So I'm glad that you're gonna help us encourage people and to create awareness as well. So
absolutely.
thank you so much for your story.
Thank you.
Kisses and hugs for you and for your baby and for your son. And hope to see you soon.
All right, sounds good.